I thought I was ready for anything. But nothing prepared me for the sheer, unapologetic audacity of what I saw. My entire project me future. My reputation just went up in flames. It all started with a hum of anticipation in the morning air. A sound I mistook for the approaching delivery truck. But when I peered out the window, a jarring sight stole the sunrise, an orange cone. A solitary, ridiculous sentinel stood directly in the middle of my easement. And behind it, arms crossed and a smirk plastered on her face, was Karen, our HOA president. My heart sank. A leaden weight in my chest. No way. This couldn't be real. My grand woodworking project, the one that would finally secure my business, was dependent on that access. The kiln-dried cherry wood for the custom bar top. The client who had given me this one shot. All of it was waiting. Karen's voice, as saccharine and sharp as cheap lemonade, cut through the quiet. Morning, Elias. Just a little maintenance. She gestured vaguely at the cone as if it were a beautiful sculpture. Safety first. You know. Her eyes, cold and calculating, darted to my bewildered face. I took a deep, ragged breath. Maintenance. Karen. My delivery is due any minute. This is a private easement. My words felt like a child's plea. She just chuckled. A dry, rustling sound like dead leaves. Private easement. Oh. Honey. Everything in this community falls under the jurisdiction of the HOA. And we've decided this unkempt little path is a liability. It's a temporary measure. Temporary. The word echoed with a sinister finality. I felt a flush of anger rise from my gut. Hot and consuming. You can't do this. I managed to stammer, my voice cracking. The deed. She cut me off, her smug grin widening. The deed says nothing about a personal gravel road. Elias. Your access is from the main driveway. Like everyone else. Try to have a nice day. She turned on her heel and walked away, her steps echoing with victory. A neighbor. Mr. Henderson, a man whose porch I had just restained, gave me a look of pure, helpless sympathy. Mrs. Gable, a few doors down, already had her phone out, probably to gossip. The air thickened with her cruel triumph. Defeated, I retreated to my workshop. The scent of sawdust, usually a comfort, now smelled like failure. My phone vibrated with a text from the delivery driver, access blocked. Can't unload. TXT me when clear. A low growl escaped my throat. I couldn't just give up. I had to find a loophole. Some forgotten rule. I remembered something my late grandfather, the man who built this house and this workshop, had always said to me as a boy. His voice a low rumble of wisdom, Elias. My boy. The devil is in the details. And the real power is always buried in the fine print. A fleeting, almost forgotten memory. I started to dig. Not in the ground, but through a dusty, neglected chest in the corner of my workshop. Inside, amidst old blueprints and faded photos, was a leather-bound folio. It was the original land deed from when my grandfather bought the property decades ago. It was heavy with history. I sat down and started to read. Every word. Every clause. Every archaic legal term. Hours bled into one another. My eyes ached. Just when I was about to give up, a phrase caught my attention. A sentence half hidden by a coffee stain. The easement. A permanent right-of-way. In perpetuity. Okay. I knew that part. But what followed? That was the twist. A clause so specific. So old. It felt like a ghost in the machine. It detailed a contingency for malicious and demonstrable obstruction by any future governing body. In such a case, the deed stipulated that the governing body's authority over the designated block shall be suspended forthwith, and a temporary community committee appointed to oversee matters of common interest until such time as a vote of no confidence can be held. Wait. Could this be real? Could this be the forgotten key? It was a failsafe. A final gift from my grandfather. A man who saw the future and guarded his family against a future like Karen. I felt a surge of adrenaline. Cold and electric. I made a copy of the deed, highlighting the two-part clause. My hands trembled. But this time not with fear. I walked back out into the bright afternoon sun. My feet solid on the gravel. Karen was still there. Now chatting on her phone. Laughing. The orange cone seemed to glow. A beacon of her arrogance. I approached her. The sound of my steps crunching on the gravel the only sound for a moment. Her laugh died in her throat as she saw the resolute look on my face. She hung up. Her phone still buzzing in her hand. Back again. Elias. What part of no don't you understand? She sneered. I didn't say a word. I just unfolded the deed and started to read. My voice low but steady, enunciating every word of the specific clause. Pursuant to Clause 7. Article B. Subsection 4 of the original deed. Dated. Her face went pale. What is that? Some kind of joke. She stammered. Her voice losing its edge. A meaningless relic. She insisted. But her eyes, wide with sudden terror, darted back and forth. Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Gable had emerged from their homes again, drawn by the new tone of the confrontation. They stood there, silent witnesses. That's not a joke, I said, my voice now a whisper of pure conviction. It's the law. This is a deed of covenant, signed and sealed before your little HOA even existed. And it says right here, and here, that by maliciously blocking my access for no legitimate reason, you have triggered its clause. It says your authority over this block is now suspended. Null and void. A collective gasp rippled through the small audience of neighbors. Karen's composure shattered. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered on the asphalt. The sound was sharp. A punctuation mark on her downfall. You can't. She shrieked. Her voice a frantic, ugly thing. She looked from me to the two other neighbors, pleading for them to side with her. But they were already huddled, looking at the document I held out. Mr. Henderson, a former corporate lawyer, squinted at the fine print. He's right. Karen, he said, his voice quiet but firm. It's all in order. The clause is ironclad. The sound of her breath leaving her in a long, rattling exhale was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. I'm the president. This is a coup. She whimpered. My gaze was steady, and I met hers with a cold finality. No, Karen, I said calmly. It's a checkmate. And per the deed, we now have to form a temporary community committee to manage this block. I nominate Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Gable. The neighbors nodded. A quiet revolution taking place. Karen's face was crimson, her eyes welling up with tears of rage and humiliation. She stumbled back, snatched her phone, and scurried into her garage. The thunderous clang of the metal door a final, pathetic period to her reign. The orange cone, now a monument to her defeat, was picked up and moved by Mr. Henderson. A profound silence fell over the cul-de-sac. A silence of freedom and a shared understanding. The air, once thick with tension, now felt light, breathable. And then, in the distance, a familiar rumbling sound began to grow. The sound of an engine that meant progress. Not just for me, but for the whole neighborhood. The cherrywood had arrived. In a world where rules are often bent for convenience, what truly separates a rule follower from a law upholder? And where do we draw the line between doing what's right and simply doing what's legal?